The room buzzed with muted conversation. The lead investor, Mr. Grantham, sat at the head of the table, flipping through financial projections with cool detachment. "I'm not interested in idealism," he said, tone clipped. "I'm here for returns. If you can't deliver them fast, I'll take my capital elsewhere." Aldrich leaned forward, steady but firm. "And if we compromise what Floresiana stands for, you'll lose long-term loyalty, brand equity, and the core of what you invested in." Siana added, "We're not just selling a product, we're reshaping a reputation. That takes time and heart." Grantham scoffed, but there was hesitation in his eyes. "You've got 2 months. Show me the numbers, or I start pulling out." Scene: Marketing Department. Afternoon Siana paced as Peter reviewed the latest data. "We're making progress," he said, "but it's not fast enough for someone like Grantham." She nodded, rubbing her temples. "We need something bold. A campaign that shakes the old identity completely." Peter's brow rose. "You're thinking revolution, not evolution." "Yes," she said. "A story campaign. Real clients, real voices. Authentic impact." Peter smiled. "Then let's start writing it. Montage. Floresiana's authenticity." Campaign. Real clients being filmed in everyday settings, talking about how Floresiana changed their lives. Employees volunteering ideas, working late into the night with genuine energy. Siana presenting drafts, her presence confident and warm. Aldrich watching her from afar, admiration clear in his eyes. Scene: Aldrich's apartment. Night. The wine glasses sat untouched. Siana curled against the armrest of his couch, scrolling through campaign feedback. "We've never had engagement like this," she said, awe in her voice. Aldrich nodded. "Because you led it." She looked at him, then away. "I couldn't have done it alone." He reached for her hand, his thumb brushing gently over her knuckles. "You weren't alone. Not anymore." Their eyes met. No pretense, no bravado. "Just truth. I'm terrified," she whispered. "This feels real." "It is," he murmured, "and I won't let it break." Scene: Leono Enterprises. Mr. Leono's office. Following. Weak Mr. Leono tapped the top of a thick report. The campaign results printed in sharp black and white. "You proved me wrong," he said, voice rough with reluctant pride. "The board is impressed. Grantham's staying in." Aldrich exhaled. "Because we stayed true." His father looked at him, then gave a brief nod. "Maybe that's what legacy should be." Scene: Boardroom. Final presentation. Aldrich stood beside Siana, hands clasped in calm control. "This campaign wasn't just about numbers. It was about redefining who we are," Siana added, "and showing that evolution doesn't mean betrayal. It means honoring the past by building a better future." Applause broke out, cautious but sincere. Mr. Leono remained seated, eyes fixed on them both. Then slowly he clapped too. Scene: Rooftop terrace. Sunset. The city lay golden beneath them, soft clouds drifting in the sky. Aldrich pulled Siana close, his voice low. "We did it." She rested her head against his shoulder. "Not just the company. Us." He smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. "To whatever comes next, we face it together." Their hands intertwined, steady, strong, not perfect, but real, and finally, free. Floresiana, 1 year later, annual gala event. The ballroom shimmered with soft gold light. Floresiana's new branding glowed on banners across the room, simple, elegant, and meaningful. Rooted in integrity, grown by heart. Aldrich stood at the podium, tuxedo crisp, expression humble. 1 year ago, he said, his voice steady. This company stood on the edge of change. Many were afraid. I was one of them. But someone reminded me that fear means we're close to something real. He looked to the front table where Lyanna sat, radiant in a midnight blue gown. She gave a small, proud smile. This transformation wasn't mine alone. It was ours. And today, I'm proud to say, we're no longer a legacy held hostage by the past. We're a future shaped by courage. Applause echoed as Aldrich stepped down, greeted with handshakes and congratulations. But his steps only quickened when he reached her. You still get nervous talking in front of people, she teased softly. Only when you're watching, he murmured. Scene. Garden balcony. Later. That night Lyanna leaned on the railing, gazing, up at the stars. Aldrich joined her, slipping his hand into hers. I've been offered a seat on the global board, she said, eyes never leaving the sky. A pause. That's amazing, you deserve it, she finally turned to him. But it means moving, probably overseas, a lot of travel. He was quiet. Then, do you want me to come with you? She searched his face. Would you? For you? He smiled. Anywhere, Lyanna softened. I haven't decided yet, but knowing you're beside me, that's enough for now. Scene. Peter's art gallery. 2 weeks later. Peter stood beside his latest piece, a bold splash of color on stark white canvas. Lyanna walked in, hair pinned loosely, holding a bouquet. You finally opened your own space, she said, eyes warm. Peter laughed. Took me long enough, huh? They walked slowly through the gallery. The silence between them was peaceful. I never said thank you, she said softly. For what? For loving me in a way that asked nothing of me. You gave me the room to grow. Peter smiled, that familiar gentleness in his eyes. And look at you now. She squeezed his hand. I'm happy, Peter. I really am. I know, he said. That's all I ever wanted. Floresiana headquarters. Rooftop garden. Aldrich and Lyanna stood before a new plaque. The Hope Garden, dedicated to renewal, roots, and rising. Employees mingled below, laughter and music drifting upward. You did it, she said. He shook his head. We did it. They stood quietly, the city stretched out around them. Then Lyanna turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. I think I'm ready. He looked at her, eyebrows raised. For what? She smiled. To start a family. A beat. Then Aldrich laughed, caught between joy and disbelief. Are you sure? She nodded. I've never been more sure. He pulled her into his arms, kissed her with reverence, and whispered, Then let's build that too. Years later, a Sunday morning at home. The soft giggle of a child echoed through a sunlit kitchen. Aldrich stood barefoot, hair tousled, a spatula in hand as he flipped pancakes. A little girl with Lyanna's eyes and Aldrich's stubborn chin sat on the counter beside him, kicking her feet. You burned that one again, Papa, she said with a mischievous smirk. He gave her a mock scowl. You're 5. How do you know what burnt means? Because Mama says it when you cook. Lyanna entered then, robe wrapped around her, coffee in hand, and kissed both their foreheads. And she's not wrong. The 3 of them dissolved into laughter, unguarded, real, warm. Scene, Floresiana headquarters, memorial hallway. The hallway was quiet, lined with portraits and quotes from the company's past. Aldrich stood with his father's framed image behind him. Not stern and cold as he remembered, but softened with time. Mr. Leono had passed 2 years ago, but his final years were spent watching his son carry the company into the future with grace he never expected. Lyanna stood beside Aldrich now, holding his hand. A bronze plaque read, The future isn't built by power, it's sustained by people who care. Leono vision, Reimagine 2025. I think he'd be proud, Lyanna whispered. Aldrich squeezed her hand. And if not, I am. Scene, Art Gallery, Peter's International Exhibit. Opening Peter stood before a crowd in London, his painting titled Unwritten Promises Unveiled. Bold strokes, a swirl of red and indigo, fragments of letters never sent, hearts unspoken but healed. From the back of the room, Lyanna watched with a quiet smile. Later she approached him, wrapped in a long coat, memories drifting between them. You finally painted that piece, she said. Peter nodded. It took me years to let go the right way. I'm glad you did. He looked at her, no bitterness in his gaze, only peace. I always said you'd grow into something beautiful. I just didn't realize how much watching you bloom would teach me to do the same. She hugged him. Thank you for being part of my becoming. Final scene. Rooftop of Floresiana, present day. The city below hummed with life. Lyanna leaned against the rail, her daughter curled against her side, sketching flowers in a little notebook. Aldrich stepped behind them, wrapping them both in his arms. Investor dinner in 20, he murmured. Lyanna turned, eyes crinkling. We've made it, haven't we? He nodded. Not to the top, but to something better. To home. She looked at their daughter. What should we call this flower? The little girl asked, holding up her page. Lyanna smiled. Hope. That one's always called Hope. Closing lines. Some stories aren't about fairy tales. They're about growing into the people you were always meant to be. Together, scarred but soft, honest but whole. That's Floresiana, that's home. Marketing department. Late afternoon sunlight streamed through the glass walls of the marketing office, casting golden patterns across Lyanna's desk. She was reviewing the latest engagement data, and the graphs were more than numbers now. They were symbols of transformation, proof that heart-driven leadership could yield real-world results. Peter approached with a coffee in hand. Numbers look good, he said, setting the cup beside her. They do, Lyanna said with a soft smile. But it's more than that. It feels earned, he nodded. It is, and it's only the beginning. Scene, Floresiana headquarters. Investor Summit evening. The grand conference hall buzzed with excitement. Lyanna stood at the podium, Aldrich beside her. Her voice was clear, confident. At Floresiana we believe in legacy, but not the kind carved in stone. We believe in legacy that breathes, adapts, and listens. The audience applauded, and Aldrich stepped forward. Our future is rooted in respect. For our clients, for our employees, and for the stories behind every product. We're not just selling, we're connecting. Investors leaned forward, intrigued. They saw not just profit, but purpose. Scene, after the summit, balcony overlooking the city Lyanna and Aldrich stood side by side, the skyline glittering before them. You were brilliant in there, he murmured. You weren't so bad yourself, she teased. He turned to her, expression serious. I know we built this together, but I wouldn't have had the courage to start if not for you. Lyanna touched his hand. And I wouldn't have had the strength to keep going without you. He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Scene, nursery, 1 year later, a tiny room filled with soft toys and pastel colors. A crib sat in the center, and inside, a baby girl with dark curls and bright, curious eyes. Lyanna watched from the doorway, Aldrich's arms around her waist. She has your eyes, he whispered. She has your fire, she replied. The baby cooed and Aldrich chuckled. A new generation of Leono, one who will grow up knowing love and choice, not pressure. Lyanna leaned back against him. "We've rewritten the legacy, and it's only just begun," he said. Scene. Closing montage. Years later. Lyanna speaking at a women's leadership conference, the audience moved by her story. Aldrich mentoring young executives, his demeanor still firm, but now filled with empathy. Peter opening a local art school, surrounded by young, eager students. Mr. Leono's portrait unveiled in a new company wing titled Legacy and Renewal. Their daughter, now older, sketching flowers under the shade of a tree while her parents laugh nearby. Voice over. Lyanna. "We thought we were just fixing a company, but we were healing ourselves, learning that love and power aren't opposites. They're strongest together. The years rolled on gently like petals carried by the wind, sometimes swift, sometimes still. Lyanna blossomed beyond even their projections, not just in profit margins but in culture, in presence, in purpose. It became a company others didn't just admire, they believed in it. Lyanna, once the quiet strategist behind the scenes, had become a symbol of transformative leadership. She didn't seek the spotlight, but it found her anyway, in magazine covers, keynote speeches, and mentorship programs. Her story, once buried beneath contracts and corporate ceilings, became a beacon for young women everywhere who thought soft hearts couldn't stand in boardrooms. Aldrich changed too, not overnight and not without pain. He learned to speak without raising his voice, to lead without dominating, to listen without planning a response. There were still difficult days, moments when old instincts knocked at his door. But every time he looked at his daughter, at Lyanna, at the company thriving under a culture of compassion, he chose differently. Peter's art school thrived in the old downtown district, repurposing forgotten buildings into spaces of color and creation. He remained a steadfast friend, and though there were moments, glimpses, of what might have been between him and Lyanna, they both knew what they shared was its own kind of love. Quiet, undemanding, and deeply rooted. As for Mr. Leono, time softened. Some of his edges. He never apologized, not directly, but he showed up at birthdays, at board meetings, at the naming ceremony of the Legacy and Renewal Wing. In his own way, he had begun to understand that legacy wasn't about control. It was about what you left behind that others could carry forward freely. And the little girl with fire in her eyes grew up surrounded by truth and tenderness. She didn't know the full story yet, but one day she would. She would read about the contracts and confrontations, about a company nearly torn apart, and the two people who stitched it back together, not with ink and signatures, but with faith and persistence and love. And when she did, perhaps she'd smile and say, "That's my family." And maybe, just maybe, she'd choose her own path, with a heart unafraid to feel and a voice unafraid to lead. As autumn rolled into the city, golden leaves carpeted the gardens around Lyanna's new cultural center, a space where art, innovation, and community bloomed under the same roof. It had been Lyanna's vision, quietly nurtured during her pregnancy, and now, 3 years later, it stood as both a tribute and a promise that business didn't have to come at the expense of soul. On a quiet Sunday morning, Lyanna stood beneath the flowering arches in the courtyard, her daughter giggling as she chased butterflies. Aldrich watched from the stone bench, sketchbook in hand. He had taken up drawing in the evenings, nothing elaborate, just small moments. Lyanna's smile when she solved a problem, their daughter's curls after a nap, sometimes just the changing light across their kitchen floor. It grounded him. Years ago, he would have scoffed at the idea of stillness. Now, he craved it. "She looks like you when she runs," he said as Lyanna approached, brushing leaf petals from her coat She has your stubborn stride, she teased, then softened, and your eyes when she's determined. He wrapped an arm around her waist. Do you ever think about the beginning? About that day in my office? The contract? She rested her head on his shoulder. All the time. But I think about what came after more. Would you do it again? Lyanna looked up at him, eyes gentle but steady. Yes, even the heartbreak, even the missteps, because they brought us here. A breeze swept through, scattering petals. Their daughter shrieked with delight, reaching up as if to catch the wind itself. Later that night, as the house settled into quiet, Aldrich stood in the nursery doorway, watching his daughter sleep. He hadn't planned for this, for a family, for love. But maybe that was the point. The best things defied plans. He felt Lyanna slip beside him, arms winding around his waist. She's dreaming, she whispered. Of what, do you think? Lyanna smiled. Something wild and beautiful, like her life will be. They stayed like that for a long while, letting the silence speak for them. In the years to come, they would face new battles, economic shifts, social change, personal doubts. But they would face them hand in hand. Lyanna would continue to evolve, led by those who believed in people before prophets. Their daughter would grow, carving her own legacy, perhaps even surprising them both. And somewhere in the quiet corners of their hearts, Lyanna and Aldrich would always remember. It began with a contract, but it became a love story. Lyanna, Cultural Center. A decade later, the atrium was filled with soft music and the quiet hum of conversation. Today marked the 10th anniversary of the Lyanna Cultural Center. And the gathering wasn't just a ceremony. It was a celebration of values, of people, of change. Lyanna stood near a large portrait wall, tracing her fingers over a photo of the original launch day. She smiled as she saw younger versions of herself, Aldrich, Peter, and even Mr. Leono's silhouette faded in the background. Still your favorite place? Aldrich asked, coming up behind her, now sporting a few threads of silver in his dark hair. Always, she replied, because it never let us forget why we started. Their daughter, now 12, confident, curious, and fiercely intelligent, stood at the podium ahead, presenting her first youth-led initiative. The Future Garden, a sustainable design lab powered by young minds. She didn't need to be told she came from legacy. She lived it, boldly and without fear. Peter, now a respected creative entrepreneur and philanthropist, gave her a proud thumbs up from the side of the stage. He had found his own rhythm and purpose, no longer defined by unspoken affections, but by the stories he chose to nurture. The crowd erupted in applause as the young girl concluded. Legacy isn't about what we leave behind. It's about the world we shape while we're still here. Scene, home library. That night, the house was quieter than usual. Lyanna curled on the couch with a book, while Aldrich sat beside her, reading old letters once sent by Mr. Leono. Letters he'd never dared open until recently. He was scared, Aldrich murmured, of being forgotten, of being wrong. Lyanna placed a hand over his. And yet here we are, living proof that change doesn't erase legacy. It refines it. Aldrich looked over at her, his eyes softer than they once were. I never imagined I'd be at peace like this. You earned it, she said, kissing his knuckles. No, he whispered. We did. Outside, the garden lights flickered to life. Their daughter's laughter echoed from her room. The house was full, not of grandeur, but of love, of quiet evenings, of battles fought and bridges built. Closing scene, a letter from Lyanna to her daughter. My dearest girl, you come from fire and gentleness, from battles and healing. You were born not into perfection, but into love that chose its say. Of every single day. One day you'll face choices like we did, some painful, some uncertain. But remember, love is not weakness. It's the fiercest kind of strength. Build, challenge, forgive, and lead. You are not here to follow footsteps. You are here to leave your own. With all my heart, Mom. The letter faded into the closing shot. Their daughter standing under the same tree where Lyanna once sat, sketchbook in hand, as petals rained down around her, fade to black. A tall tree shaded the university quad, where students bustled with maps, tote bags, and anxious excitement. Among them walked Lyanna Leono, now 18. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, but her calm stride and self-assured air mirrored both her parents, Lyanna's empathy and Aldrich's quiet strength. She paused at a community board filled with internship listings, activism flyers, and design competitions. Her gaze settled on one ad. Reimagine Tomorrow, a global initiative for ethical design, seeking change makers, not followers. She smirked slightly, pulled out her phone, and scanned the QR code. Voiceover. Lyanna. They say you can't. Choose your legacy, but I think maybe you can choose what you do with it. Scene. Floriciana HQ, guest lecture room. Now transformed into a learning hub, part of the Floriciana building opened its doors every quarter to youth innovators. Aldrich, now semi-retired but still revered, sat in the audience. Lyanna had taken on a new role as chair of the Global Leadership and Empathy Fellowship, her smile unchanged, her presence still a force. Lyanna stepped onto the podium in her jeans and linen shirt, unapologetically herself. No suits, no pretense. Hi, she began, her voice calm, even amused. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to challenge you. Because the world we're inheriting, it's got cracks. But that also means there's room to plant new things. Slides behind her flickered with images of youth-led campaigns, tech that prioritized accessibility, and businesses choosing sustainability over shortcuts. I grew up inside the walls of change. Now I want to take it outside. A pause. Then applause. Not polite, but genuine. Young minds leaned in. Older ones nodded. Something had shifted again. Scene. Rooftop garden. Later that evening, Lyanna sat with her parents, the city lights behind. Them. They were older, wiser, but peaceful. A breeze ruffled the plants around them. You were brilliant, Lyanna said. You both always say that, Lyanna replied, rolling her eyes affectionately. That's because it's always true, Eldridge said, handing her a mug of warm tea. She looked between them. Did you ever feel scared of messing up? Every day, Lyanna admitted. But we had each other. And now, Aldrich added, you've got you, and that's more than enough. Lyanna leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. You built the path. I just get to walk it. No, Lyanna whispered. You get to expand it. Final scene, open journal pages, a handwritten entry. Lyanna's voice soft and deliberate. I was born from stories of conflict, courage, failure, and forgiveness. But my story, it's just beginning. The world doesn't need perfect heroes. It needs honest ones. So here I go, not to follow, but to lead, not to uphold a name, but to give it new meaning. The page flips in the wind. Her initials are etched in the corner. LLQ slow fade out. University dorm room. Night. The room was a small chaos of books, sketches, and a laptop glowing with a half-finished presentation. Lyanna sat cross-legged on her bed, her phone buzzing. With messages from classmates, she ignored them, focusing on drafting a mission statement for the student organization she was founding. Voices for Tomorrow. A knock came at the door. Lyanna glanced up as her roommate Maya stepped in with a skeptical smile. Already burning the midnight oil? You know you should sleep sometime, Lyanna smirked. Sleep won't change the world, Maya, but a good plan might. Maya sat beside her, eyes scanning the notes. So what's the big idea? To build a network where students don't just talk about change, they actually make it. Whether that's sustainable design, ethical business, or social justice. Maya nodded slowly. Sounds ambitious, but you've got the drive. Lyanna's smile faded a little. It's more than that. I want to prove I'm not just Aldrich and Sienna's daughter. I want to create my own mark. Maya looked at her earnest. I think you already have. Scene: Floresiana HQ. Boardroom. Lyanna was invited to observe a meeting, a rare honor for a student. Aldrich was present, alongside company executives discussing a new product launch. Lyanna listened carefully, but felt the weight of history pressing on the room. Corporate jargon masked tensions beneath the surface. She noticed some executives hesitant about the progressive initiatives her parents had championed. When the meeting ended, Aldrich caught Lyanna's eye. Seeing the business from the inside isn't always easy, he said. Not always inspiring either, she replied. Honestly, he smiled, a trace of pride in his eyes. That's why we need fresh voices like yours. Scene: campus courtyard. Day. Lyanna stood on a makeshift stage during the student government elections. Around her, crowds gathered, some cheering, others skeptical. She spoke passionately. Change isn't easy. It means questioning traditions, upsetting comfort zones, and taking risks. But if we don't act now, who will? The crowd's energy shifted, a ripple of excitement growing. Afterward, a student approached, a senior named Ethan, who represented the established order. Idealism is great, but you need allies if you want real change, he warned. Lyanna met his gaze steadily. Then I'll find them. Student organization meeting. Evening. Lyanna stood at the head of a crowded room in the campus community center. Around her, a diverse group of students gathered, some enthusiastic, some skeptical. We're not just here to talk, Lyanna said firmly. We're here to act. Our first campaign, pushing for sustainable practices in campus dining. A hand rose from the back. It was Ethan. Count me in, he said, surprising the room. Lyanna raised an eyebrow. You? He smiled wryly. Change isn't the enemy, but it needs strategy. Let me help you with that, the group murmured, curiosity piqued. Scene: Floresiana HQ. Executive Office. Aldrich and Sienna watched from the glass walls as Lyanna met with Floresiana's sustainability team via video call. She's got fire, Sienna said. Aldrich nodded, but his eyes held a flicker of worry. And a lot of pressure. The old board won't back her ideas easily. Scene: University library. Late night. Lyanna sat alone, reviewing documents for her campaign. A text popped up on her phone. Meet me at the cafe. I have something to show you. Curious, she headed out. Scene: Campus cafe. Ethan greeted her with a folder. I've been digging into the university's supplier contracts, he said. There's room to push for greener vendors, but it'll take guts and allies. Lyanna flipped through the papers, determination setting in. Then let's start building those alliances. Campus greenhouse. Afternoon. Lyanna and Ethan stood among thriving plants and solar panels installed on the roof. The air buzzed with quiet hope. We've secured a meeting with the dining services director, Ethan said, eyes bright. Lyanna nodded, her resolve firm. We'll show them that sustainability isn't just good ethics, it's smart business. Scene: University dining hall. Meeting room. Lyanna presented passionately to the skeptical dining services team. Our proposed vendors reduce waste by 30%, lower costs long-term, and appeal to student demand, she explained, handing out detailed reports. A middle-aged man leaned forward, folding his arms. And what about supply reliability? You can't just switch on a whim. Ethan jumped in. We've verified backup vendors and staged phased implementation to ensure smooth transition. The room was silent for a tense moment. Then the director nodded slowly. All right, we'll pilot your plan in one dining hall. This semester. Lyanna's heart surged. Scene: Florisiana HQ. Aldrich's office. Aldrich stared at a screen showing the university's pilot project news. Sienna joined him, smiling. Looks like your niece is making waves, he smirked. Looks like the next generation is ready to rewrite her own legacy. Campus cafeteria. Weeks later. Lyanna stood near the pilot dining hall, watching students react to the new sustainable menu options. Some smiled approvingly, others hesitated. Suddenly a staff member approached with a frown. We're getting pushback from suppliers about the new contract terms. They say the margins are too tight. Lyanna's smile faltered, but she squared her shoulders. Then we negotiate harder. We can't give up on this. Scene: Student Union. Meeting room. Lyanna gathered her core team. Papers and laptops were scattered across the table. We're up against old systems and profit-driven mindsets, she said firmly. But we have something they don't: community support and data. Her teammate raised a question. How do we keep the students engaged when some still prefer the old options? Lyanna thought for a moment. We start campaigns that tell the story behind every ingredient, connect them emotionally. Scene: Aldrich's office. Evening. Aldrich was reviewing reports when his phone buzzed. A message from Lyanna. Facing resistance, but moving forward. Proud to be part of this. Legacy. He smiled, texting back. Keep pushing, we're all with you. Scene: Campus auditorium. Fundraising. Event. Lyanna addressed a packed crowd, her voice steady and passionate. Sustainability is not a trend. It's the future we choose. Together we can create a campus that reflects our values. The audience erupted in applause. Her confidence was contagious. Supplier's office. Midday. Lyanna sat across from a stern supplier. The contract drafts spread between them. We understand your concerns, she said calmly. But these changes are necessary. We're aiming for a partnership built on trust and long-term sustainability, not just short-term profits. The supplier studied her, then nodded slowly. All right, we'll give this a try, on one condition: transparency in every step. Lyanna smiled, relief mingling with determination. Deal. Scene: Campus dining hall. Busy lunch. Our students lined up, eagerly for the new menu options. Lyanna watched with pride as a group of freshmen sampled the vegan dishes. One student turned to a friend. I didn't think I'd like this, but it's actually good. Nearby, a poster displayed. Eat well, live well, choose sustainability. Scene: Late night. Lyanna's dorm room. Lyanna sat at her desk, exhausted but energized. She reviewed emails from campus leaders, some praising the initiative, others pushing back. Her phone buzzed. A message from Aldrich. Keep going, Lyanna, you're making waves. She paused, smiled softly, and typed back. Thanks. It feels like the start of something bigger. Scene: Campus green space. Celebration event. The student body gathered to celebrate the successful launch of the Sustainable Dining Program. Lyanna took the stage once more. This is our legacy, a future we build with intention and heart. Thank you for believing. Cheers filled the air, echoing the promise of change. University Administration Office. Morning. Lyanna stood before the university board presenting data and student testimonials about the Sustainable Dining Initiative. Since implementation, we've seen a 40% reduction in food waste and a 30% increase in student satisfaction, she explained, her voice steady but passionate. This program aligns with our commitment to environmental stewardship and student wellness. A board member nodded thoughtfully. Impressive results. What's next? Lyanna's eyes sparkled. Scaling up and integrating sustainability into all campus services. It's not just about food, it's about mindset. Scene: Campus courtyard. Afternoon posters for an upcoming Green Week event went up as volunteers distributed flyers. Lyanna coordinated with student groups, environmental clubs, and local businesses. A fellow student approached. "Your initiative inspired me to start a recycling program in my dorm." Lyanna smiled warmly. "That's the ripple effect we need. Change starts with one, then grows." Scene: evening. Dorm room. Lyanna sat with a laptop, drafting an article. For the university newsletter, her words reflected the journey, the challenges faced, the successes earned, and the vision ahead. A knock on the door. It was her roommate, holding 2 cups of tea. "You need a break," Lyanna laughed softly. "Maybe." "Just a moment." Scene: Green Week, opening ceremony, campus. Quad Lyanna addressed a large crowd, the sun setting behind her. "We are more than students. We are stewards of our future. Let's make every choice count." Applause erupted, echoing into the night. Campus library. Late night Lyanna sat surrounded by books and notes, her eyes heavy but determined. The deadline for her sustainability proposal was tomorrow, and every detail mattered. Her phone buzzed, a message from her professor. "Impressed with your dedication. Remember to rest too." She smiled, typing back. "Thank you. This is more than a project. It's a mission." Scene: student government meeting. Next day, Lyanna presented her full proposal to the student council. The room was packed, whispers of anticipation buzzing through the crowd. "We propose a partnership with local farms to supply fresh, organic produce to campus cafeterias," she explained. "This supports local economies and reduces carbon footprints." Questions followed about budget, logistics, and impact. Lyanna answered each with calm conviction. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. The motion passed unanimously. Scene: campus cafe. Afternoon, Lyanna and a group of volunteers set up a pop-up market featuring local farm products. Students browsed, tasted, and learned about the benefits of sustainable eating. A skeptic approached. "This is nice, but can it really change things?" Lyanna met his gaze. Change starts with belief and action. Scene: dorm hallway. Evening, Lyanna's roommate surprised her with a handmade Green Hero badge. "For all you do." Touched, Lyanna pinned it to her bag. "This is for all of us." Scene: campus Green Week. Closing ceremony. Lyanna stood again before the crowd, the energy palpable. "Today we celebrate progress, but tomorrow we continue the journey. Sustainability isn't a trend, it's a responsibility." The crowd cheered, united, and inspired. Lyanna sat across from the university dean, holding her breath. The dean studied her proposal, eyes thoughtful. "This is ambitious," he said finally, "but we'll need strong backing to get this off the ground." Lyanna nodded, determination flaring. "I've started building support. Students, local farmers, even some faculty." The dean smiled slightly. "Keep that momentum. I'll help where I can." Scene: community center. Afternoon, Lyanna met with local farmers around a rustic table piled with fresh produce. "We've never partnered with a university before," one farmer said skeptically. "We want this to be a true collaboration," Lyanna assured him. "Your voices will shape this initiative." Murmurs of agreement spread. The farmers began sharing ideas and concerns, bridging the gap between campus and community. Scene: campus quad. Sunny day posters for the upcoming Farm to Table Festival went up. Lyanna and volunteers set up booths, tents, and a stage. Her phone buzzed. A message from a local news outlet interested in covering the event. Excitement bubbled inside her. This was more than she'd imagined. Scene: festival day. Evening. The quad was alive with music, laughter, and the aroma of fresh food. Students, farmers, and faculty mingled easily. Lyanna stood on stage, voice steady as she addressed the crowd. This festival celebrates community, sustainability, and the power we have when we work together. The applause was thunderous. Scene: Lyanna's dorm room. Night alone, Lyanna reflected on the day's success. Yet a message popped up on her phone, an email from a skeptical professor questioning the project's feasibility. Lyanna frowned but typed back. Every change faces doubt. I'm ready to prove it wrong. Lyanna stood before a panel of professors, including the skeptical one who had emailed her. The room was tense but filled with curious eyes. She began confidently. This initiative isn't just about food. It's about education, empowerment, and bridging divides, the skeptical professor interjected. But how will you ensure academic rigor? How do you measure success? Lyanna smiled, prepared. By integrating research projects with community involvement, tracking outcomes with data, and continuously adapting based on feedback. Whispers of approval rippled through the room. Scene: Research lab. Afternoon, Lyanna worked alongside students, reviewing data collected from local farms. One student asked, "What if the farmers don't continue after the project ends?" "Build sustainable systems," Lyanna explained. "Training, resources, and ongoing support. This isn't a one-time event." The student nodded, inspired. Scene: Campus cafeteria. Lyanna shared a meal with a few farmers visiting campus. "You've made us feel heard," one farmer said. "That means more than you know." Lyanna smiled warmly. "And we've only just begun." Scene: University board meeting. Evening, the dean presented a report on Lyanna's project to the board, highlighting increased student engagement and positive community feedback. A board member asked, "Are the initial investments justified?" The dean answered firmly, "Absolutely. This is the future of education, integrated, inclusive, and impactful." Scene: Lyanna's dorm room. Late night, Lyanna stared out the window, tired but fulfilled. Her phone buzzed, a text from Aldrich. "Proud of you, keep pushing boundaries." She smiled, typing back, "Thanks, we're all rewriting our stories." Community center. Morning, Lyanna stood with several students and local farmers, setting up a workshop. Tables were laden with fresh produce and educational materials. A curious child tugged at her sleeve. "Will we really get to plant and grow food like this?" Lyanna smiled brightly. "Yes, and you'll help teach others too." Scene: University. Auditorium. Afternoon, Lyanna delivered a keynote at a student conference. Her speech was passionate. True change happens when knowledge meets action. We're not just learners, we're leaders. The crowd erupted in applause, energized by her vision. Scene: Administrative office. Lyanna sat across from a senior university official, discussing funding. "We need to scale this program," Lyanna urged. "More students, more communities, more impact." The official nodded thoughtfully. "It's ambitious, but your results speak volumes. Let's draft a proposal." Scene: Local farm. Evening, Lyanna visited one of the farms involved in the project. She watched as farmers and students worked side by side, laughter and conversation filling the air. One farmer clapped her on the back. "You've brought hope here." Lyanna's eyes glistened. "We're planting more than crops. We're planting futures." Scene: University lab. Late night, Lyanna reviewed new data, a tired but satisfied smile on her face. Her phone buzzed with messages of support from students, farmers, and even Aldrich. She whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." Lyanna sat with her core team, plans and charts spread out before them. Energy buzzed around the room as they mapped expansion strategies. Suddenly, an email notification popped up on Lyanna's laptop. Her face tightened as she read a message from a corporate lobby group opposing their agricultural reforms. One team member glanced at her, concerned. They're pushing back hard. This could slow us down. Lyanna took a deep breath, determination flashing in her eyes. We knew this wouldn't be easy, but every step forward is worth the fight. Scene, City Council hearing. Afternoon. Lyanna stood before a panel of city officials and industry representatives. Her voice was steady but passionate. Our project empowers communities, promotes sustainability, and preserves traditions. We're not asking for charity, we're asking for partnership. Some officials nodded, impressed. Others exchanged skeptical looks. A lobbyist from the opposition spoke next, citing costs and economic risks. Lyanna responded firmly, investing in people and the planet is the future. Short-term resistance won't stop long-term progress. Scene, late night. Lyanna's apartment. Exhausted, Lyanna stared out the window at the city lights. Her phone buzzed again, messages of encouragement and concern from her team. Peter's message stood out. Remember, you're not alone in this. Lyanna smiled, typing back, thank you. We fight together. Scene, community festival. Weekend. Despite the challenges, Lyanna organized a harvest festival celebrating the project's success. Families danced, shared food, and laughed under colorful lanterns. She watched the joy around her, heart swelling. Change was possible, not just in policies, but in people's lives. Lyanna entered the sleek conference room greeted by Aldrich and Sienna, who exchanged encouraging smiles. The air was charged with purpose. We've seen the opposition's moves, Aldrich said, spreading out the latest reports. They're trying to undermine your efforts, but this is bigger than any one group. Sienna nodded, her eyes fierce. We need a united front. Business, community, government. Together, we can turn resistance into support. Lyanna looked between them, grateful. Your support means everything. Let's show them what leadership with heart looks like. Scene. Press conference. Floresiana headquarters. Standing together, Lyanna, Aldrich, and Sienna faced the cameras and reporters. Lyanna spoke with conviction. Floresiana's mission is to build a legacy not just of profit, but of purpose. We stand for innovation that respects people and the planet. This is our commitment. The crowd buzzed, flashes from cameras capturing their united front. Scene night, Floresiana rooftop. Later, Aldrich poured wine as they gathered atop the building. The city stretched below, lights shimmering like stars. To new beginnings, Aldrich toasted. Sienna smiled, raising her glass. To fighting for what matters. Lyanna's gaze swept the skyline. And to creating a future we believe in, together. Their glasses clinked softly, the sound a promise. Scene, community center. Months later, the agricultural project thrived. Farmers shared stories of renewed hope and harvests. Lyanna walked among them, radiant with fulfillment. Aldrich and Sienna stood nearby, watching with pride. Peter joined them, a proud grin on his face. This is just the start. Floresiana headquarters. Late-night office. Aldrich sat alone, reviewing the latest community feedback reports. The glow of the city lights outside contrasted with the weight inside him. His phone buzzed, a message from Sienna. Tomorrow is big. Let's face it together. He smiled faintly, typing back. Always. Scene, Sienna's apartment. Evening, Sienna paced, tension evident but determination shining through. Peter sat nearby, offering quiet support. You're carrying so much. Sia, Peter said softly. She stopped, meeting his eyes. I can't let them down. Not now. Peter reached out, squeezing her hand. You don't have to carry it alone. Scene, Floresiana headquarters. Crisis meeting. An urgent call had come through. A faction opposing the agricultural initiative had launched a smear campaign, trying to halt funding. Aldrich's voice was steady but fierce. We respond with facts, transparency, and unity. Lyanna, you lead the communication. Lyanna nodded. We'll turn their fear into understanding. Lyanna joined via video, her face resolute. And we'll rally our supporters to amplify the truth. Zine, community rally. De Floresiana's supporters gathered, chanting and holding signs of hope. Lyanna stood at the podium, voice clear and unwavering. This isn't just a fight for a project. It's a fight for our values, respect, honesty, and growth. Together we rise. The crowd erupted in applause, energy surging like a wave. Scene: Aldrich and Lyanna. Quiet moment. Later, back at Floresiana, Aldrich found Lyanna on the rooftop terrace. The city buzzed below, but up here, it was just them. I'm scared too, Aldrich admitted. Not of losing the company, but of losing us. Lyanna's hand found his. We're stronger because we choose to fight together. He pulled her close, the night air filled with a fragile but fierce hope. The leadership team gathered around the sleek table. Investors and key stakeholders joined via video call. The atmosphere was tense, but hopeful. Aldrich cleared his throat. We've faced opposition, yes, but we've also gained clarity about who we are and what we stand for. Lyanna took a breath, stepping forward. Our new transparency initiatives and community partnerships aren't just strategy, they're commitment. The screen flashed with testimonials from farmers and employees, genuine stories of transformation. An investor nodded slowly. This is the future. Scene: Floresiana headquarters, marketing department. Lyanna and Peter reviewed the latest social media campaigns. Engagement was rising steadily, public trust growing. Peter smiled. Your voice is reaching people, real people, it's changing hearts. Lyanna's eyes sparkled. That's the goal. Not just business success, but meaningful connection. Scene: Aldrich's office. Afternoon, Aldrich received a call from Lyanna, the legal advisor. The smear campaign is losing traction. We have new evidence to expose the orchestrators. Aldrich leaned back, a rare smile breaking through. Good. Justice isn't just for show, it's for truth. Scene: Floresiana headquarters. Celebration. Event Floresiana hosted a gala, celebrating recent successes and renewed vision. Employees, partners, and community members mingled under warm lights. Lyanna caught Aldrich's eye across the room. He raised his glass to her, a silent toast. She smiled back, heart full. Scene: balcony overlooking the city. Late night, Lyanna and Aldrich stood side by side, quiet but connected. Whatever comes next, Aldrich said softly, we face it together. Lyanna nodded. Always. They shared a long, meaningful look, the city lights reflecting their hope. Floresiana headquarters, late evening. The office was quiet, save for the soft tapping of keys and distant hum of the city outside. Lyanna sat alone, reviewing the next phase of the sustainability plan. Her phone buzzed, a message from Aldrich. Dinner? Need to talk. Important. She smiled, gathering her things. Scene: Aldrich's apartment. Night, Aldrich poured 2 glasses of wine as Lyanna entered. He handed her one. His usual guarded expression softened. I've been thinking, he began, about what legacy really mean, not just the company, but us. The choices we make, the risks we take. Lyanna took a sip, meeting his gaze. It's messy and uncertain, but it's ours. He nodded. I want us to face everything honestly, from the boardroom battles to the moments like this. No walls. She reached for his hand. No walls. Scene: Floresiana headquarters. Early morning, Peter greeted Lyanna with a grin, holding a newspaper. Guess who made the front page? She glanced down. Floriciana's bold new vision. A company transformed by heart and integrity. Peter chuckled. You did this. Sienna's smile was quiet but proud. We did. Scene. Rooftop garden. Sunset Aldrich and Sienna stood amid blooming flowers. Their daughter toddled nearby, laughing. Aldrich lifted her into his arms. She's the future we fought for. Sienna wrapped her arms around them both, and we'll protect it, together. Scene. Floriciana headquarters. Boardroom. Aldrich faced the board, calm but resolute. Change is never easy, but it's necessary. We'll keep pushing forward, honest, transparent, united. His father sat watching, expression unreadable. Scene. Sienna's apartment. Night Sienna journaled quietly. Her words spilled with hope, challenges, and growth. Legacy isn't just what we inherit. It's what we choose to build, for ourselves, for those we love. She closed the journal and looked out the window, the city alive beneath her. The room was filled with executives and team leads. Aldrich stood confidently at the head of the table, his tone firm but encouraging. We've made progress, but the market is shifting faster than we anticipated. We need innovation, not just in products, but in how we connect with our customers. Sienna added, our new campaigns will focus on storytelling, authenticity, and sustainability. This isn't just marketing, it's our promise. A hand raised from the back. It was one of the senior board members, skeptical. And what if? This approach doesn't drive profits quickly enough. The shareholders want results. Aldrich's gaze sharpened. Then we show them that integrity is the best investment. Scene. Floriciana headquarters. Private office. After the meeting, Sienna and Aldrich sat together in the quiet office. You're not afraid to challenge them, she said. I'm not afraid anymore, he replied, taking her hand. Because I'm not alone, their fingers intertwined, a silent pact. Scene. Floriciana headquarters. Hallway. Peter approached Sienna holding a file. There's been some pushback from the legal team on the new supplier contracts, she sighed. It's always more complicated than it looks. Peter smiled. Complicated is our middle name. Scene. Floriciana headquarters. Boardroom. The board meeting resumed with heated debate. Aldrich and Sienna stood united, defending the company's new direction. Despite opposition, their passion was undeniable, slowly winning over some of the skeptics. Scene. Evening. Aldrich's apartment. The tension melted away as Aldrich and Sienna relaxed together. You know, Aldrich said softly, there's still so much to prove. Sienna leaned on his shoulder. Then we prove it. Together. The glow of city lights filtered through the windows as Aldrich and Sienna sat side by side, reviewing the latest reports. Sienna glanced up. Sometimes I wonder if we're moving fast enough. Aldrich shook his head gently. It's not about speed. It's about getting it right. For the company, for us. She smiled softly, resting her head on his shoulder. We're writing a new story. Scene. Floriciana rooftop garden. Early morning, Sienna watered the plants as Aldrich approached with 2 cups of coffee. Morning ritual, he said, handing her a cup. She took it. It grounds me. With all the chaos, this is my calm. He looked at her, admiration clear. You're my calm too. Scene. Floriciana headquarters. Conference room. A breakthrough came as the marketing team presented a fresh campaign centered on customer stories and community impact. Aldrich nodded in approval. This is the kind of connection that lasts. Sienna added, it's not just selling a product, it's building trust. Scene. Sienna's apartment. Quiet. Evening. Peter and Sienna sat chatting over tea. I'm proud of how far you've come, Peter said quietly. Sienna smiled. It's been a journey. But I'm not done yet. Peter reached out. And I'll be here every step. Scene: Lyanna headquarters, boardroom. The board's resistance began to soften as results from the new strategy showed promise. Mr. Leono, seated at the head, finally spoke. I underestimated you both. This new path, it might just work. Aldrich exchanged a glance with Lyanna, a mix of relief and determination shining between them. Scene: nursery, evening. Their daughter giggled, reaching for a colorful mobile. Lyanna and Aldrich watched, hands entwined. She's our future, Lyanna whispered. Aldrich kissed her forehead. And we're ready for it. Lyanna headquarters, boardroom meeting. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. The board members sat around the polished table, eyes fixed on Aldrich and Lyanna as they presented the quarterly report. Sales had improved, employee satisfaction was up, and brand loyalty was stronger than ever. Mr. Leono cleared his throat. The numbers speak for themselves. This new direction, led by you two, shows promise. I believe it's time we fully commit. Aldrich exchanged a glance with Lyanna, a silent understanding passing between them. Lyanna nodded. We're ready to take Lyanna into a new era, one built on respect, innovation, and integrity. Applause broke out softly among the board. Members. The resistance was finally giving way. Scene: Lyanna headquarters. Hallway Peter caught up with Lyanna, a wide smile on his face. You did it. All of you did. Lyanna exhaled deeply. It's a relief, but also just the beginning. Peter grinned. Whatever comes next, you're not alone. Scene: Lyanna headquarters. Aldrich's office. Aldrich and Lyanna sat together, the weight of the day lifting. Remember when this all felt impossible? Lyanna murmured. Aldrich smiled. Now it feels inevitable. He took her hand. Together. Scene: home, family. Dinner: Aldrich, Lyanna, their daughter, and Peter shared a warm meal. Laughter filled the room as the stresses of work melted away. Their daughter giggled. Mama, Papa, Peter, play! Lyanna smiled warmly. Yes, sweetheart. After dinner. Scene: Lyanna headquarters. Garden. Aldrich and Lyanna stood amidst blooming flowers, a symbol of their growth and renewal. We've rewritten our legacy, Aldrich said softly. Lyanna smiled. And we'll keep writing it every day. Lyanna headquarters, Innovation Lab. The lab buzzed with energy. Young designers and engineers collaborated, surrounded by prototypes and sketches. Lyanna walked through, her eyes shining with pride. Aldrich joined her, nodding. This is the future we envisioned, creative, inclusive, and bold. Lyanna smiled. It feels alive. Suddenly, a junior designer approached nervously, holding up a new product concept. We wanted to get your thoughts before the next phase. Aldrich took the prototype, examining it carefully. This is exactly what Lyanna needs. Keep pushing boundaries. The team exchanged excited glances. Scene: local community center. Evening: Peter led a workshop for aspiring artists, sharing his passion and skills. The room was filled with eager faces, hope, and inspiration. Lyanna and Aldrich watched from the back, proud of their friend's dedication to giving back. Changing lives in every way, Lyanna whispered. Aldrich nodded. This is what legacy means. Scene: Lyanna headquarters. Evening: Lyanna sat alone in her office, reviewing letters from employees sharing how the company's new direction changed their lives. Her phone buzzed, a message from Aldrich. Ready for tomorrow's board meeting? Together, always. She smiled and typed back. Always. Scene: Lyanna headquarters, rooftop garden, night under a sky sprinkled with stars. Aldrich and Lyanna stood close. We've come so far. Lyanna said softly. He took her hand. "And we'll keep moving forward no matter what comes." They shared a quiet moment, the city lights glowing beneath them, a testament to their journey. The boardroom was filled with a tense energy. Investors, executives, and key stakeholders sat around the polished table, waiting for the presentation. Lyanna stood confidently at the head of the table, Aldrich beside her. Together they unveiled a new strategic plan, one that balanced innovation with sustainability and corporate responsibility. An investor raised a skeptical eyebrow. "How do you plan to maintain profitability with such ambitious social goals?" Aldrich smiled, cool and composed. "Because profit and purpose are not mutually exclusive. We're investing in people, technology, and communities, and the returns will speak for themselves." The room murmured with cautious optimism. Scene: Lyanna headquarters, cafeteria. Later Peter sat with Lyanna and Aldrich, sharing laughs and plans for future community projects. "Remember when we thought this was just a company turnaround?" Peter said, shaking his head with a grin. Lyanna laughed softly. "It's so much more." Aldrich raised his cup. "To legacy, rewritten." They clinked their cups, a silent promise to keep building together. Scene: Lyanna headquarters. Evening. Lyanna and Aldrich walked through the halls now filled with light and energy, their footsteps in sync. "You know," Aldrich said, "there were times I doubted we'd get here." "Me too," Lyanna admitted. "But I never doubted us." He stopped, turning to face her. "Neither did I." Their eyes locked, a deep understanding passing between them, stronger than words. Lyanna headquarters, rooftop terrace, sunset. The golden light spilled over the cityscape, casting a warm glow on Aldrich and Lyanna as they stood side by side. Aldrich took a deep breath, eyes reflecting the horizon. "We've come a long way from where we started," Lyanna smiled softly. "And yet, this feels like just the beginning." He reached out, gently taking her hand. "No matter what comes next, we face it as one." She squeezed his hand, feeling the steady strength beneath. Together. The city hummed quietly below them, alive with endless possibilities. Scene: Lyanna headquarters, conference room. Weeks later, Lyanna addressed a group of new interns, her voice passionate and inspiring. "This company is more than numbers and profits. It's about people, it's about heart, and it's about the courage to choose who we want to be." The interns listened intently, hope shining in their eyes. Aldrich watched from the doorway, pride softening his usually guarded expression. Scene: Lyanna headquarters, Aldrich's office, night alone. Aldrich sat at his desk, a photo of Lyanna and their daughter on the table. He whispered to himself, "For them I'll keep fighting. For us I'll keep growing." The city lights flickered through the window, a silent witness to a man transformed. The boardroom was filled with a fresh energy. The once tense atmosphere had shifted to one of cautious optimism. Aldrich stood confidently at the head of the table. "Today, we're not just discussing profits. We're discussing purpose. Our renewed vision is about integrity and innovation, about people and legacy." Mr. Leono, seated across the room, nodded slowly. "You've earned my respect, Aldrich. Lead us forward." Lyanna exchanged a glance with Aldrich, partners in both business and life. Scene: Lyanna marketing department. Afternoon. Lyanna and Peter reviewed the latest campaign results together. Peter smiled. "You've changed the culture here. People believe in what Lyanna stands for again." Lyanna's eyes sparkled. "It's because we believe in each other." Scene: family home. Evening. Aldrich, Lyanna, and their daughter sat together in the cozy living room, laughter filling the space. Aldrich looked around, heart full. This is what I fought for. Love, family, and a future worth building. Lyanna rested her head on his shoulder. And we're just getting started. Scene: Floriciana headquarters. Rooftop, night under the stars. Aldrich and Lyanna stood holding hands, the city sprawling endlessly beneath them. Aldrich whispered, "Legacy isn't what you inherit, it's what you create," Lyanna smiled. "Then let's create something unforgettable." They shared a quiet, hopeful smile as the night embraced them. Lyanna and Aldrich walked through the newly revamped innovation lab, where young designers and engineers were passionately at work. Lyanna paused by a prototype of a sustainable product. "This is the future, responsible, thoughtful, and bold." Aldrich nodded. "And it's exactly what Floriciana needs to lead with." They exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the hard work that had brought them here. Scene: Local community. Center. Day Peter was hosting an art workshop, surrounded by children eagerly painting and creating. A volunteer approached him. "Your program is changing lives." Peter smiled warmly. "It's about giving back and inspiring the next generation." Scene: Aldrich and Lyanna's home. Late night, in the quiet glow of the living room, Aldrich and Lyanna sat close, their hands intertwined. Lyanna looked up. "We've been through so much, but I believe in us." Aldrich brushed a stray hair behind her ear. "Me too, more than ever." They leaned into each other, comforted by the promise of what lay ahead. Scene: Floriciana headquarters. Annual. Gala. The grand ballroom shimmered with elegance. Floriciana's transformation was the evening's highlight. Lyanna took the stage again, radiant and poised. "Thank you all for believing in our vision, a vision of heart and innovation." Aldrich watched from the side, pride shining in his eyes. Scene: Closing montage. Time passing. Floriciana's products featured globally, known for quality and conscience. Aldrich mentoring a diverse group of leaders. Lyanna launching a foundation, supporting women entrepreneurs. Peter's art programs expanding to multiple communities. Their daughter playing confidently, inspired by her parents' strength. Lyanna and Aldrich stood together, overlooking the city bathed in golden light. The rooftop garden was a new addition, symbolizing growth, renewal, and the organic future they envisioned for Floriciana. Lyanna sighed softly. "It's strange. How much has changed, yet here we are, still standing." Aldrich smiled, pulling her close. "Because we never gave up, not on the company and certainly not on each other." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I want to keep building this for us and for her." Aldrich kissed her temple. "For every generation to come." Scene: Nursery. Quiet morning. Their daughter sat in her crib, babbling happily. Lyanna entered quietly, watching her with a smile full of hope. She whispered, "You're the reason we fight so hard." Aldrich joined them, wrapping an arm around Lyanna, and the reason we'll never let go. Scene: Floriciana headquarters. New CEO announcement. The boardroom was packed. Aldrich stepped forward, handing the CEO plaque to Lyanna, who stood poised and confident. "With great pride, I announce Floriciana's new CEO, Lyanna Leono. Her vision will guide us into a future where compassion and innovation walk hand in hand." The room erupted in applause. Aldrich caught Lyanna's eye, a mix of respect and admiration shining there. Scene: Final montage. Floriciana expanding into sustainable markets worldwide. Lyanna mentoring young women in business. Aldrich leading corporate social responsibility initiatives. Peter's art school thriving, full of joyful students. Their daughter growing strong, curious, and surrounded by love.